Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you decided to click on this video. So as you can see from the title, this is another episode of my 5-star reread project where I reread a book that I've previously given 5 stars to and see if it still maintains that rating. And if you haven't seen any of my videos in this series before, the criteria, I guess, for choosing books are obviously that I gave it 5 stars, that I read it over a year ago, and that I have never done a reread of it before. So this should be an exciting month because I chose The Gunkle by Stephen Rowley. This is a book that I adored when it came out, and the sequel is coming out at the end of May. So I figured this is the perfect time to do a reread before I dive into the next book, which is called The Guncle Abroad. So first we'll get started by reading my review from the first time that I read this. So I read this in May of 2021, and I had some good stuff to say about it. My brief synopsis is: the story follows Patrick, who is tasked with caring for his niece Maisie and nephew Grant for the summer after the death of their mother, while his brother heads to rehab. While Patrick loves the kids, he really has no idea what to do with them and isn't thrilled about setting aside his bachelor lifestyle to be a stand-in parent, especially with the kids dealing with grief. What unfolds is a hilarious and heartwarming story of familial bonds and the way those we love can change us. So this is my review. If you only read one book this summer, it needs to be The Gunkle. I can't remember the last time I laughed out loud at a book, and this one had me going from the first page. I felt such a strong connection to Patrick with his skepticism about taking care of children and his constant musical theater references. One could even argue this is a gender-swapped main retelling. While dealing with some heavy subject matter, this book manages to never get too dark and instead focuses on how to move on without forgetting those that have been lost. Maisie and Grant cracked me up, but it never felt like they were solely there for comic relief. They were real people with full personalities, still learning about how the world works and how to go on after losing their mom. The relationship between Patrick and the kids developed so realistically, with both progression and setbacks happening just as they would in life. While not a found family story, as they are actually blood related, it definitely had those vibes, since Patrick took the kids in with reluctance and learned to love them as individuals, not just because they are his niece and nephew. The Guncle felt a lot like watching a family sitcom with laughs galore and little bits of wisdom sprinkled throughout, but it never felt over the top or corny. This charming and silly book is a summertime must-read, preferably by the pool with a mimosa in hand. But as Patrick would say, just a whisper of juice, just wave an orange over the glass, and that's probably still too much. This book is ice cream on a hot day, a pool filled with floats, and an absolute delight. So, needless to say, this was a big hit for me, and I'm definitely excited to see if it will do the same for it this time. So, I have the entire day off tomorrow, I have no plans, and it's supposed to be a little bit cloudy and rainy, so I will be really just settling in for a nice day of reading The Guncle. Okay, so it's only the next day, and I've only read about 4 chapters, but I feel like I already had some things that I wanted to say. First of all, that this is just as cute as I remembered. Also, kind of way sadder than I remembered. I don't really know why it's hitting me harder this time because, I guess because I'm, closer to losing someone that I love so much, but I don't know, I haven't yet, so I wouldn't think that it would be as effective in just breaking my heart. But also it's funny because the last time I read this in 2021, I didn't even have a glimmer of having a baby nephew, and I have one now, and so maybe kind of thinking about it in the sense of losing my sister and her poor baby, not having a mom anymore, is making it a little more real to me. Not that I didn't have empathy or feel anything the first time, it's just it feels so much more tangible to me right now. So that is number one. Second thing is, my mom had the audiobook on her Libro FM account, so I logged in so I can listen to that because I think today I'm gonna go take a nice long walk. It's finally pretty nice out. It's been kind of rainy and gross the last week. So I think I have, the whole day to do nothing. So I think I'm just gonna take a long walk down somewhere, maybe to my husband's work. My husband works in a brewery, and it's you know, a vibe on a Sunday afternoon, and watch the Phillies maybe. And yeah, so I was just thinking that might be something fun to do, and so I can listen to the audiobook while I walk. I might film another video today, I don't know, but those were just like two thoughts from the beginning. I also love the audiobook so far. I did start a little bit of it. It's narrated by the author, and he just, I mean, because he knows what he was writing, like he knows the tone of what he was trying to say, he knows the like inflections of the characters' voices, like it just really adds something, I think, to the book. So I'm loving that. I wouldn't be surprised if I finish this within like the next 24 hours, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll actually have something to vlog. So yeah, as is, still 5 stars, but like I said, I'm only about 11 or 12% through. So I will see you on my next check-in.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun as she puts her hand in mine.
Sorry for the terrible lighting and the terrible sound. Probably I have my AirPod in, so hopefully it's helping with like microphone purposes. I am like 2.5 miles into my like 3-ish mile walk, but I just wanted to like update because there are like so many things in here that I feel like I forgot, like anything having to do with this agent. And there's definitely stuff, like, I mean, I say this at every time I do this kind of video, that there's stuff that I forgot, but there's, I guess, a lot more about other stuff than just the kids. Like that was the memory that I had, was that this was mainly focused on the kids, and like there was a little bit of other stuff because Patrick, the main character, is also grieving his husband who died in a drunk driving accident. And Patrick harbors a lot of guilt about it because he was in the passenger seat. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm still very much enjoying it. I am about 32% through right now, and I'm probably going to finish this like tomorrow. So maybe I'll make this like a hybrid video between this book and then also The Gunkle Abroad, because that might be a little more fun. But yeah, I am really, really liking this. I'm also like enjoying this walk around Philly because I don't really get to this kind of area that much. The area that I live in and tend to stay in is more like city versus like touristy. So I kind of like was walking here through like Old City, where like Independence Hall is, Liberty Bell, like Betsy Ross House, all that stuff. And I feel like I forgot that like I live in a city that people come to visit as tourists, which I don't know why. I feel like where I stay is so much like not that. I mean, I live like in the city, so of course there's tourists, but they just don't like stick out as much as they do when it's like, you know, locals don't generally like go to historical places around town that much. So anyways, I'm gonna go back to my walk, and that really wasn't too much of an update, just that I forgot stuff. Yeah, so we will be back soon. I am now at like 60%, and I don't know if I actually have like that much to say, but I felt like at 60% I needed to do another check-in. It is the next day from when my previous clips were, when I was taking my nice long walk. So I'm at the point where Patrick, oh my gosh, Patrick is kind of getting used to having the kids there, and he's trying to get back into acting now because of some encouragement from his neighbors in the throuple. And he ends up kind of having to like revisit some like past trauma, which he's not necessarily acknowledging is trauma. And so like that's, you know, it's definitely like a thing that is happening like in the book. It's not like the author is not aware of this or whatever. And he ends up getting, like, firing his agent and getting a new agent within the office. So that's good for him. He threw a party for all of his previous, like, co-stars and people he knew from Hollywood. But then his sister, Clara, showed up. I forgot that there was another family member besides his brother Greg who is at rehab. And she, honestly, is the worst. We're not supposed to necessarily like her, but I think we're supposed to understand her or at least, like, feel for her. But I just kind of think she's awful. She is going through stuff of her own, but, like, she ends up saying that, like, Patrick is not a suitable guardian figure for the kids, and that, like, she ended up, like, petitioning the courts to, like, get temporary guardianship over the kids. I don't know. I mean, when you think about, like, the story from the beginning, it is kind of weird that Greg, the kid's dad, had decided to ask Patrick before anyone else because he lives on the other side of the country, he doesn't like kids, and he really doesn't know these kids well. And I mean, if I was a kid, my mom just died, and my dad was going to be, like, you know, away for a little bit, I don't think I would want to go with someone who I've really just met, like, once. That's essentially a stranger, but I guess, I don't know. Maybe they talked about it and I just, like, missed it, because the sister Clara actually lives in the same area in Connecticut as the kids do. So you'd think that that would be, like, a more easy thing to do, but what do I know? Obviously, I'm glad that they went to California because otherwise this book wouldn't exist, and it's great. So I am still, like, really enjoying it. The jokes, the snark is just so funny. It's like every chapter there's stuff that I want to, like, write down because I just, like, think it's hilarious. And I love listening to the audiobook because, like I said, you can really get the, literally and figuratively, the author's voice really comes through. But also, like, I love the little boy, Grant, his voice, he speaks with a lisp, and so does he narrating it. And so it's just, like, adorable. Obviously, it's not a little kid reading the lines, but it's still so cute, and I love it. Let's see. Tomorrow, the Guncle Abroad comes out, so I got a notification that my copy of it shipped, and I am super excited to get to that. So I'm going to try to finish this maybe tonight. I think the audiobook says I have, like, 2 hours left, but I did start another book that, like, I kind of am in, let's see, I've read only, like, a few chapters, but, like, it's definitely got me intrigued, so I might need to do a little bit of that. But otherwise, I definitely should finish this at least by tomorrow. And then I'll get started on the Guncle Abroad, and I cannot wait. So, yeah, this is still, like, how I remembered it. I guess there's a little more, there's plot lines I had forgotten about, I guess. But that's to be expected, I guess, after, like, 3 years of not having read this. But, yeah. Anyways, I am just gonna continue with my reading, and I will check back in later. Hey, so I really don't remember the last clip that I filmed, so I'm sorry if I'm, like, repeating myself or skipping big chunks. I guess I could go look, but I don't think I'm really skipping much. So I just finished The Guncle. So good. It's definitely still a 5-star. It definitely hits different for me personally because I have a nephew now, so, like, just having that, like, niece, nephew, aunt, uncle, Guncle relationship, like, I just feel like it's a little more, like, tangible for me. Additionally, like, my dad is not dead, but he has cancer, so I feel like I've been having to come to terms with death and the inevitability of it. And that was definitely not something that I had any experience with when I read this book the first time, and just, like, the way that it addresses grieving, and it was just really powerful. I totally forgot the ending, like, 100%. And it was like honestly the perfect ending. That was fun because I really didn't remember what was going to happen because I knew obviously, okay, these kids, Greg, the dad, is going to get out of rehab and the kids are going to go back to Connecticut and Patrick's going to stay in Palm Springs. But I didn't really remember what actually happened, I guess. I do remember the dog, Marlene, loved that. And like, these kids are so cute. Especially Grant with his lisp, and listening to it on audio was just such an experience. Highly recommend if you are going to pick this up that you check out the audiobook. And luckily, I have the audiobook for The Guncle Abroad, so I am going to start that next. I've been a little preoccupied because I got Stephen King's new book yesterday that came out, and so I've been like having to balance my audiobooking with my physically reading. But I'm starting a trip in the morning. I'm going to Charlotte and then to Seattle, and then I'll be there for like 24 hours and then work a red eye back the next night. So I will take you along with me if I do anything that's fun. We'll see. And yeah, so I am gonna get started on The Gunkle Abroad, which honestly I don't really know the plot of, and I don't think I want to. I think I want to just go with it and see how it is. So we'll check back in later. Hello again. So first of all, sorry if the camera is a little wobbly. I have the tripod on like a soft surface because I don't have anywhere else to put it, so it might be a little wobbly. Second of all, sorry for the terrible lighting as per usual when I'm in a hotel room. So I am currently in Seattle. I had a long day yesterday, a bunch of chaos. I feel like every time I come to Seattle, I have a lot of chaos getting here, but we got in last night, and now this morning I went to Pike Place Market, walked around a little bit. I went to Target, walked around a little bit, and I have just woken up from my semi-nap. I try to take a nap when I have red eyes, but I only got to sleep for about an hour and a half, so that's not very good because I'm about to be awake for a lot of hours overnight. So lots of coffee, lots of coffee. I did get a lot of listening to The Gunkle Abroad in today, and I am loving it. So I really didn't say anything about the plot because I really didn't know anything before starting it. So we start the book opening in Lake Como in Italy, and the kids are kind of upset about something. We just kind of like find out that like the rehearsal dinner the night before is chaos. That will be explained in a second. Just things were a big mess. And then we flash back to 4 weeks earlier. So Patrick has been in New York. He did a sitcom, and I think he did like some Broadway. That was how the last book ended. So he is in London doing a movie. So he's filming it there. His brother, Greg, who is the father of Maisie and Grant, is getting remarried in Italy to like a Marchesa or something like that. But he keeps calling her the Baroness, like from The Sound of Music. Lots of Sound of Music references, so I'm loving that part. And, you know, it's 5 years later, so Maisie is now 14 and Grant is 11. So they're different people. Grant is still the king of my heart, adorable. So they, you know, are different than they were in the first one. They end up going to London to stay with Patrick, and he's like, I'm going to take them for a couple weeks, and we are going to go meet you guys in Lake Como, and we'll be there for the wedding, whatever. So Greg can be settling in with his bride and all of that, like getting wedding stuff ready. And so it's so cute because he's like taking them to all these different locations. So let me see. We went around England. We went to Paris, and they were super unimpressed by the Mona Lisa. They went to Austria. Oh my gosh, that was probably my favorite part so far. They went to Austria, and Patrick took them on like the Sound of Music tour. It was hilarious. Just all the little quips, all the banter between the three of them. And yeah, it was so great. I loved that. And then they went to Venice and making their way slowly up to where they'll be having the wedding. And I mean, there aren't like super specific things to point out that I'm loving, but in general, I really am enjoying the way that like the relationships have evolved, because clearly these kids are not kids anymore. I mean, they are, but like, you know, in a different way. Maisie is a teenager and she's kind of sullen and angsty, and they're both having a lot of complicated feelings about their father getting remarried, and I can totally understand that. And Patrick's also having complicated feelings while trying to make sure that they feel like they're being heard, but also like trying to encourage them to let this woman into their lives. And we still get a lot of flashbacks about Sarah, their mother, who was Patrick's best friend. And yeah, I mean, it's just really, really fun, really nice and sweet. It's a really good, like, mixture, just like the first one, of like heartfelt and funny and sad. And yeah, I mean, I'm just really, really having a good time with it and looking forward to reading some more. So I don't know when I will get to, because I do have the physical copy. It should be home by now. I pre-ordered it and it just didn't come in the mail yet, but I am listening to the audiobook, so we'll see. Hopefully I'll get a chance to finish that or listen to some more of it soon. And yeah, I've been plowing through Stephen King's new book, which I'm just loving. It's short stories, so there's, some I like better than others, but that is a video for another day. So yeah, I am going to get myself put together to go to work, and even though this is not going to be seen by anyone until this day is well over, wish me luck, because this is going to be a rough next few hours. So sorry for the lack of updates. I'm obviously home now, and I had a really productive day, but also slept a good chunk of it because I got home this morning. I did survive my red eye, so that's good. So I did end up finishing The Guncle Abroad today, and I think overall I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed the overall, like, I don't know, theme of the book, because it's similar to The Guncle. A lot of talk about how just because you are like moving on with your life after a death of someone you love, it doesn't mean that you're forgetting about them, which, especially with the kids in this, it's like pretty important to like keep that in your mind. And I mean, for everyone, but especially like 2 kids, because these kids are like really struggling with their father getting remarried and all of that. I don't want to go into any kind of spoilers, so I'm going to be brief here, but the things that I did not like about it were the way that Patrick was kind of behaving towards the end. He ends up having this big rivalry with Palmina, who is the bride Livia's sister, who's a lesbian. They make it a big thing. She's the Lant, not like the Lant and the Guncle. Anyways, and it's like, seems like it's fully based on Patrick's own like insecurity and jealousy, and it goes so far as to like cause a big scene at the rehearsal dinner. And I mean, that does get addressed like early in the beginning of the book, so it's not like I'm spoiling that, but it is super frustrating because I'm just like, you are a 50-year-old man, sir. Like, I get that we are all insecure, but I would think that you would definitely have moments of insecurity and wanting to make sure like you weren't being replaced. It's just kind of funny because on one hand, he's telling the kids that like, just because someone new has come along that your father's fallen in love with, that doesn't mean that your mother is any less a part of your life or any less important. And in the meantime, it's kind of like the same thing. It's hypocritical because it's like, okay, well, just because someone else is entering the picture that's going to maybe also love these kids, like, you shouldn't be threatened by that. You should be happy that they're going to be on the receiving end of even more, like, love and support throughout their lives. So that annoyed me. It also annoyed me, like, throughout the whole book. I don't know, maybe just because I can't really relate to this situation at all, but when Maisie and Grant are like, we want to stop the wedding, you have to make sure it doesn't go on, like, whatever, and, like, Patrick kind of goes along with it. Like, if I was this Guncle, I would be like, kids, you don't get to make this decision. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, like, ruin the wedding or whatever. I mean, I would definitely make sure to talk to my brother or sister and be like, hey, listen, like, your kids have some concerns. Are you hearing them? So those are the biggest things, I think. And just, like, the whole, the end of the book was, like, sort of outlandish. I thought it was sweet. I enjoyed it, but it was just a little too much, like, a little too unrealistic and just, like, 90s rom-com for me. So, I don't know. I still really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. And I, again, loved the audiobook narration by the author. So I definitely would still recommend it. So thank you so much for coming with me on this double book journey. We've got a 5-star still and a 4-star. So I would say this was a success. And if you've made it this far, I appreciate you so much. I know that vlogs are generally not my most watched content, and this one is double the length, but I hope you found something to enjoy about it. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!